All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we will be consulting our financial advisor once again, unfortunately. 3 times in 1 day? Come on, man. It ain't supposed to be 3 times in 1 day? This is crazy. This is nuts. Oh, now I gotta find my fucking phone? Oh, no. I gotta find my phone for a goddamn 6-digit... Bullshit. Trash. Trash. Terrible. Terrible. 0 out of 10 experience right here. That's all I gotta say to you right now. This is a 0 out of 10 experience right now. Oh, I am taking some hits at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. I am taking some fucking hits. All right, Shirley. After third consultation, we are good to go. It can't get much worse than this, can it? We got Comet Flare. Oh, come on, man. Mortify? I mean, he's good, but Mortify? This might be the worst banner in gacha history, if I'm frankly being honest. Like, I think there's clearly something wrong with whatever is, like, happening in the back end of patch 2. No wonder they gave out so many polls this version. No wonder they gave out so many polls. Hey, if these are what the rates are looking like, fucking getting the 5-star at 70, of course you're gonna give out this many. They've changed it. It's different. The pity's now 90 in every game. Huh? All right. We've got one more left until I'm going to have to consult my advisor the 4th time in a single day. I've never had to do this before. Surely it's here. I'm dead inside. Get out of my face. Is this on pull number 10?
Chissa, ally of justice at your service. Are you the one in need of...
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have just successfully pulled Augusta and her weapon. I'm super excited to give her team a try and showcase how powerful of a character she is. I hope you guys are just as excited as me to go on this adventure in Solaris 3. So, yeah, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video just as much as I did. I had an absolute blast filming this thing. Awesome, great, wonderful time. I'll see you all later. Peace out.
I'm supposed to make a guide for Augusta, but I don't have a lot of time, so that means we're gonna ball. Augusta is reddish-orange and represents the sun. Her passion burns like California wildfires, so naturally, her element is electro. She's the main damage dealer in a team, which directly aligns with her lore about being ridiculously strong. She's got some of the flashiest attacks in the game, and her DPS values are solid. But what have I told you? Things are not as they seem. Augusta is a character with many different attacks, but a relatively low skill ceiling that allows you to learn and play her easily. For example, she has a normal set of basic attacks like most other characters, and her heavy attack uses her forte bar. But she also has another forte gauge within the forte bar. Her greed is sickening. Her normal forte gauge is called prowess, and her more important one is called ascendancy. Your goal is to max out her ascendancy so that you can trigger her enhanced skill sequence, which will grant you a stack of majesty, which then unlocks her enhanced resonance liberation at 2 stacks. When I was writing that, it made a lot of sense, but now that I've read it out loud, it's kind of way too dank. The second stack can be gained from another character when using their outro outro skill, or with one of her passives, she'll gain one for free when out of combat for over 4 seconds. Basically, with this unlocked, you just need to max her special forte gauge one single time and activate her enhanced skill to unlock that enhanced liberation. The TLDR is that little forte gauge in the middle, that's all you really care about. Her regular skill is useful for gaining ascendancy. As you can see, the summarized version is deal electro damage, and if you want the long version, it doesn't change that much. Her ascendancy gains 10% from using her skill, 20% from using her intro skill, 40% from her regular resonance liberation, and an undisclosed amount from her normal attacks. And once full, you unlock the Sand Devastated. Because the clock stops, to balance it all, they made her big hits not do that much damage at S0, because if they did similar damage to previous characters with a time stop, she'd be incredibly overpowered. So instead, she falls in line with other units for the most part, save for when she's paired with Yuno, for reasons I will not get into. Augusta also has 2 passives, one of which gives her a shield every time she attacks up to every half second, which is useful for triggering her Echo Set effect, and another passive that gives her that Majesty stack that I mentioned. But it also will fully restore Crown of Wills, which I didn't really talk about yet, so I guess I should probably do that. Actually though, it's not that important. Crown of Wills gives Augusta 15% electro damage bonus whenever an ally uses an outro skill while under Augusta's outro skill effect. But with that passive, she will just have it forever basically, until it eventually gets removed at the end of her enhanced liberation. Essentially, Majesty stacks and Crown of Will stacks are 2 things that you don't really have to think about at all when you play her. They're just a means to buff her that you automatically get when she's fully invested. Augusta's outro skill is pretty insane because it gives a 15% damage amp for all attributes, meaning that she can benefit literally any other character's damage in the game. It only lasts for 14 seconds on one character though. The last thing to know about Augusta is that most of her damage counts as heavy attack damage, meaning that those bonuses are generally good and some bonuses will be completely useless on her. There are about 15,000 different buffs that Augusta gives herself, but after watching this rotation section, her kit will make a lot more sense to you. With all of that in mind, it's probably easier if I just show you everything. So her 4-hit attack will max out her purple bar, and a heavy attack will give her half of one. This is important for her overall rotation. That, and if you play in English voiceover, you get a massive 10,000% damage amp. For the rotation example, I'm going to use the team of Shorekeeper, Mortefi, and Augusta. First off, you're going to want to start off with Shorekeeper and Mortefi for their field time. When it's Augusta's turn on the field, you want to activate her intro skill, which also procs your main Echo's damage. Then use her enhanced heavy attack combo. Follow up with her regular skill, then use her resonance liberation, and follow up with another enhanced heavy attack combo once again. After that, enhanced skill, skill again, and skill a third time, then use her enhanced resonance liberation by holding R and go sicko mode. After using her second ultimate, you can also use your Echo active skill before you outro for some extra damage. Sometimes, when you're finished, you're not actually done. If you're playing a super fast team and Augusta's 20-second cooldown hasn't recovered yet, you can always extend Augusta's field time with a heavy attack 2, 3, 4 at the end of her rotation right before her outro. But you won't need that for every single team. So once again, you're going to use her intro skill, which is going to also trigger her Echo damage by the way, then enhanced heavy attack combo, skill, ult 1, enhanced heavy attack combo, enhanced skill combo, ult 2, Echo, and if you need to extend the rotation, you can heavy attack 2, 3, 4, but you probably won't need that, so just go to her outro skill. As for teammates, Augusta actually has a lot of options as a main damage dealer. Most of her damage is heavy attack damage, meaning that characters like Mortefi, Frolova, and Yuno will be very strong with her for their outro skill heavy attack amplify. Yuno in particular is expected to be very strong with Augusta, and even though I can't show you gameplay yet, you'll just have to trust me. Of course, Shorekeeper and Farina are very strong with her as well, as they're generally good buffers, but Frolova feels fantastic for Augusta. Yunlin also works great for Augusta with her electro damage amp, but playing them together in a team with Shorekeeper gets slightly worse results than with Mortefi. And as another tip, with either one of those teams with Yunlin or Mortefi, I'd opt for a longer rotation with Augusta for more damage. The other cool thing with Augusta is because of her outro skill damage amp, you can run a lot of dual DPS teams with her, like using Carlotta as your third character in Shorekeeper Augusta Carlotta. Overall, Augusta is a strong damage dealer, but she's also very flexible with most of the cast in the game, especially when you consider her all attribute damage amp. In fact, Augusta is almost as flexible as Yuno in the bedroom. As we see more and more Septimon characters, we continue to get 3-piece Echo sets, which I'm honestly kind of down for. But with that in mind, that also means there's more build flexibility, so let me go over her best build. The new Crown of Valor 3-piece is one specifically made for Augusta, which gives a 6% attack and 4% crit damage buff for 4 seconds every time you gain a shield. Because Augusta is basically constantly getting shield, she has no problems keeping this up. It stacks up to 5 times, so it's basically free 30% attack and 20% crit damage for Augusta. But on top of that, you'll want to give her a 2-piece set that benefits her damage, and the best one for that is going to be 2-piece Void Thunder, which will get her a 10% electro damage bonus. With those two combined, you have enough power to save my marriage. The main active Echo you want is the False Sovereign, who dishes out a bunch of electro damage on use and on intro skill, but also gives 12% electro damage and a heavy attack bonus, which is a total of 24% damage bonus for Augusta. I wouldn't really recommend anything else at the moment. For main stats though, she's pretty straightforward, with a crit rate or damage 4 cost, 2 electro damage 3 costs, and 2 attack 1 costs. For substats though, I highly recommend prioritizing energy regen alongside your other stats, since you want her rotation to be smoother than Yuno's legs. She needs her energy regen to be up to 134% if you want her to work in basically every team, including suboptimal ones. Or you can get her to 118% for most of her optimal teams, so the actually good ones that most of you guys are going to be going for. For other stats, focus on things like crit rate and damage, attack percent, and heavy attack damage bonus. But what about her weapon? Well, you guys are no stranger to the drip meta of Wuwa, so obviously Augusta's signature weapon wins. But I'm personally a fan of Lustrous Razor because of that bright yellow and blue combo, which looks a lot like In terms of actual value though, her signature is...
That's quite big.
It gives 12% attack for nothing and heavy attack damage whenever using her intro or skill. It also gives heavy attacks a defense ignore, which adds quite a bit of damage to her. With that said, Verdant Summit is strong on her as well for the heavy attack bonus and crit main stat. If you have a retired Jian, this weapon should work great. Ages of Harvest and Wildfire Mark are okay follow-ups, but if you don't have either of those to spare, Lustrous Razor is the best R1 free-to-play accessible weapon. The new Ariat Zenith at R5 is the next best thing, with Autumn Trace being right behind it. If you don't have either of those, try Waning Redshift or Helios Cleaver. Here's a weapon chart showing comparisons in damage of her signature and other weapons. Take it with a grain of salt though, because weapon rankings could slightly vary based on the team and rotation that you run. And lastly, here's an overall summary of her build that surely none of you skipped to from the start of the video. Personally, even though all of my polls are going to Yuno, I recognize that some of you guys just want your head crushed like a watermelon under a hydraulic press. So just for you, I wrote up a bit about Augusta's sequence notes. Augusta's first sequence gives her an extra Crown of Will stack on her intro and increases the max stacks to 2. So now she can hold a 30% electro damage bonus from her kit instead of just the 15. It also gives her 15% crit damage per stack and gives her immunity to interruption during a lot of her abilities that could normally get interrupted. It ends up being a decent damage increase, but it's mostly just nice that you won't get smacked out of your animation. S2 gives Augusta a bonus 20% crit rate for every Crown of Will stack she has. So now she'll be getting a total of 40% crit rate and 30% crit damage whenever she has 2 stacks. But on top of that, for every 1 crit rate Augusta has over 100%, she'll also gain 2 crit damage. While playing with a character like Shorekeeper, this effect can get even stronger due to her crit rate buffs. S3 is a multiplier increase on her enhanced heavy attack, enhanced liberation slashes, and other hard-hitting abilities like her enhanced skill plunge, which already has an absurd multiplier. It'd take me like 10 minutes to explain what each hit is, but all you need to know is it's a lot more damage. S4 is a team-wide attack buff for 30 seconds when you use her intro, which is going to help extra in teams like Furlova Cantarella, and after that, S5 is going to be just a shield buff. Nothing else. I actually have no idea why this is here. S6 is going to be another Crown of Wills buff where you get an extra 5% electro damage per stack, and now the buff maxes at 4 stacks instead of just 2. She'll also get stacks from her heavy attacks now, so basically she just has a ton more stats. With S6, Augusta ends up doubling her damage from S0, though her playstyle is still essentially the same thing. Here's a visual comparison for you guys, but honestly those numbers are just way too dank anyways. If you're gonna go for sequence nodes, I would personally stop at S1 or S2, but technically the first sequence node to not give power is S5, so anything that you get past S0 is gonna help your Augusta deal more damage, though I don't really think she needs it. As for her weapon or sequence nodes, I definitely recommend her weapon if you don't have another premium weapon to give her, just because broad blades are a little bit limited in terms of what options you actually have. For those of you pulling for her, I wish you luck, but I gotta head out, so let me know when Yuno's here.
The Emperor of Septimont, Augusta, has finally arrived in the first half of version 2.6 with one of the most electrifying and jaw-dropping kits in gacha history, with the damage
Where my blade leads, triumph follows.
The experiment begins.
Where my blade leads, triumph follows. Stay behind me. March on.
Life isn't everything.
Fury boils! Silence! Burn!
This is my moment. In control. Pathetic struggle. Rulers rule. Winners win. One strike is enough.
I switched to the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 over a month ago, and there's a lot that I like about it, but it's not perfect. So, will I be sticking to it? Let's find out. Now, initially, I want to talk about the design, and I've said this before, but to me, this is the biggest upgrade to a Fold series device since the Fold 1. Samsung was clearly falling behind the competition, but they finally caught up and exceeded in some areas. Like, I still can't get over just how impossibly thin this device is. Every time I've shown it to somebody, they've been impressed, and that includes iPhone users. This blue shadow color has really grown on me. It's also available in a jet black and a silver shadow, which I do think look good. There's also an exclusive mint color available from Samsung.com. If you are thinking of getting that, then you can check out my affiliate link down in the description below. That's still going to give you double the storage and up to $50 in instant Samsung credits. Now, there has been some controversy as to which is the thinnest foldable. Is it this? Is it something else? Honestly speaking, I really don't care about that. What's important to me is that this feels like a regular smartphone when it is closed. And that's what the dream has always been, having a regular smartphone which opens up into a tablet. And I think that's what we have here with the Fold 7. Now, one minor thing about the design is the camera module being on one side. This is a super wobbly phone. Now, this may not matter to you at all, and that's absolutely fine. I generally don't use my smartphone when it's flat on the desk, but if I'm working on my computer or my laptop and I get a message and I want to quickly reply to it while it's there, it wobbles so much, it's actually impossible for me to use it this way. Now, if you get a case for the Z Fold 7, this will reduce that wobble. It might not get rid of it completely. And I would probably advise using this with a case because it's so thin and light, I kind of feel like it's just going to slip out of my hands. Now, you may be somebody that's brave and will rock this without a case. I'm not that somebody because I do tend to drop my phones a lot. The Z Fold 7, from what I can see from durability tests, is pretty durable, but I personally wouldn't risk it. Now, which case would I recommend? Well, this is a bit of a tough one because I started off with the Slim Armor Pro from Spigen, which protects the device really well, but it does make the device quite a bit thicker. And to me, it almost defeats the purpose of using such a thin device. Now, I wanted to try to get a hold of the Spigen Air Skin, which to me looks like the most practical solution, but it's just been constantly out of stock. I've even reached out to Spigen, they've not been able to get me one. Either way, I'll leave those cases linked in the description below. But if you do have the Z Fold 7 and you've been using a case that you really like, I would appreciate some recommendations in the comments. Now let's talk about the display. So one of my biggest complaints about previous Samsung Galaxy Fold devices is that the cover display was just way too narrow and not very practical or usable in the day-to-day. And finally, with the Z Fold 7, we have a 21:9 aspect ratio. Now granted, this is still a little bit narrower compared to a regular smartphone, but it is completely usable. Honestly, sometimes I've forgotten that I'm using a foldable device and I'll just be using this as normal. I'll be like, what am I doing? I can open this up. But regardless, the fact is that this is now a smartphone that opens up into a tablet. With previous Galaxy Fold devices, I always felt that they were tablets that folded in half. Now, usage is going to vary from person to person. My personal usage with the Z Fold 7 is around 60% on this cover display when I'm doing my day-to-day. But when I want to be more productive, then that's when I will use the main display. Let's talk about this main display. Now, I absolutely love this main display. It's big, bright, and beautiful. And yes, the crease is still visible, especially if you look at it from an angle. But this has never been much of a big deal for me because when you are looking at this device head on, you barely notice the crease. You also don't touch it as often because your thumbs are usually towards the sides. So for people complaining about the crease, I'm not sure it really doesn't affect me personally. And I've also seen some people complaining about the fact that because this is wider, it means that you get bigger black bars when you're watching videos. And again, that doesn't make any sense to me because even if you do have those black bars, you're still getting a better viewing experience compared to a regular smartphone. Now, I'm sure like the next person, I do end up spending a lot of time just endlessly scrolling through TikTok videos. And if you look at a comparison of watching TikTok on this main display compared to a regular smartphone like the S25 Ultra, you'll see that not only do you get a bigger video, but a lot of the distractions like the like button, the comment button, all move towards the sides. So you get more of an uninterrupted viewing experience on this main display regardless. But being a foldable device, you can do other things while you're watching videos. I mean, you can just prop the phone up like this, so you can watch the video while you're doing other things without having to use a fancy case. You can multitask. So when you're watching a video, you can be scrolling through the comments or social media feeds. And for me, that big display is not just for watching videos, it's about being productive. Let me give you some real life scenarios which I love this for. Now, I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me personally, when I'm going through emails, I don't like doing that on my smartphone. I need to be on a laptop unless it's just going to be a reply with a couple of lines. However, using a foldable like the Z Fold 7, I can be much more productive because when I'm opening my emails, I can have them along the side with the preview on the right-hand side. You can't do this on a regular smartphone. Replying to emails is much easier because you have a large keyboard with that large screen. And one of the things that I absolutely love the Z Fold 7's large display for is when I'm showing images to friends and family. I was just showing some photos to my brothers the other day, and instead of showing it on a small screen, I was just like, hey, look at this. I mean, just look how good that looks and how much easier it is to display things on this big, beautiful display. Now, when it comes to multitasking, I generally will only have a maximum of 2 windows open at the same time. I know you can open 3, but this to me is just not practical. I cannot think of any scenarios that would be useful for me where I would have 3 windows open, and that's because the smaller windows would be too small for my liking. If there are scenarios that you use on a foldable that you would recommend, then drop those in the comments below. Now, on the topic of multitasking, everything that I've thrown at this device over the past month has been absolutely fine, and that is thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Elite mobile platform. It's something that I was expecting, but being the flagship chipset, you can game on this device, you can edit video, you can multitask, and all of these things are going to run smoothly on the Z Fold 7. And that's also important because this device will have support for 7 generations of OS updates with 7 years of security updates. So if you are careful with it, it will last you a long while. and that performance should keep up for a few years at least. Now that is another big advantage that you're getting on this versus many of the foldables, is that you do get Android 16 with One UI 8 out of the box. It's one of my favorite skins with that long software support. Now when it comes to AI, I've said this before, but Galaxy AI, in my opinion, is the most complete AI package on any smartphone at this point in time. I've covered a lot of these Galaxy AI features in other videos, and realistically speaking, I don't use all of these every day. Some of my favorites are Circle to Search from Google. I use it all the time. It's super useful. Now on the Z Fold 7, you can also use Circle to Search within games to get some tips. One of my other favorites is Browsing Assist, to be able to summarize web pages, especially when you're reading them on this beautiful display. And also side-by-side editing, so you can see your original and the edited image side by side, which you're not going to be able to do on a regular smartphone. Being a Samsung device, and considering that Samsung has been doing foldables longer than anybody else, a lot of apps are also optimized for this large display. Google Gemini is optimized for this large display, as well as lots of games which take over the full screen. Now moving on to the cameras. So normally when I'm covering a Samsung Galaxy Fold device, I always say that there is a compromise. You're not getting the full-fledged flagship camera experience like you would be getting for that year's Galaxy Ultra device, for example. This year, although there is some compromise, we've had some big upgrades. The main thing that I've personally been asking for is that the primary camera should match what we have on the Galaxy Ultra device. And this year, that is the case. We've got the 200 megapixel primary camera. Now, granted, this has slight alterations to make it this thin. So technically, it's more like the camera from the S25 Edge than the S25 Ultra. But regardless, it's very good. You've got lots of detail, excellent depth of field and dynamic range. The ultra-wide camera is also good. Granted, it is lower resolution. The only thing that I found myself personally missing as somebody who has come from the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is the periscope zoom. Now the zoom on here is not bad, but you've not got that extended zoom, and you've not got the 5x portraits that you also get on the S25 Ultra. Now granted, having a periscope zoom camera would make this camera module thicker, and I'm not making excuses for Samsung, because I still do feel that if you're paying more than Samsung's flagship device, then the cameras should at least match, if not exceed, what you had there. I would still like to have a periscope zoom camera on a future Samsung Galaxy Fold device, because it is possible. If you look at the Onmagic V5, for instance, that does have a periscope zoom camera, even though it's a foldable, and it's still in relatively the same size footprint as the Z Fold 7. Now, on the topic of cameras, let's talk about the selfie cameras, because of course, this year we no longer have an under-display selfie camera within the main display. Now, this might be controversial, but for me personally, I've not missed it. The under-display camera on previous Galaxy Fold devices was just 4 megapixels. It wasn't great in terms of quality. And granted, you can use the regular selfie camera, or you can use the cover screen preview and use the rear-facing cameras as selfie cameras, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But when you're making video calls on something like the Z Fold 7, you are of course going to be using the main display, and doing so, you want a good quality front-facing camera. Now, is that punch hole distracting? For me, absolutely not, because every single smartphone that I've used has had some sort of a punch out or dynamic island over the past 5 years. So when I see a punch out, my mind automatically ignores it. Think of it as when you go to visit somebody's house and if they have a weird smell, but the people living there don't really notice it at all. That's probably a bad example, but you see what I mean. I'm so used to punch outs that I really don't care. Maybe if it was off to the side, it would be less distracting for a few people. For me personally, it's not a problem at all. For you, it may be a big deal, and a lot of people are also saying just not to have a camera at all. I kind of disagree with that, but I guess each to their own. Now, as I mentioned earlier, let's talk about using the cover screen preview feature, which will let you use the primary cameras for selfie cameras. So this will show you a preview on the cover screen and will give you better quality selfies. But there's a catch, and I think I'm probably the only reviewer to mention this. So although the primary camera is much better quality than the selfie cameras that you've got on the cover and the main display, it does have a very wide aperture, which means you're going to get more of a shallow depth of field, more of a blurry background, shall we say. Now this may be fine if you're just taking a selfie of yourself, or maybe you and one other person, but if you're taking a group selfie like this, you may recognize some familiar faces, then the people in the background are going to be out of focus. Now you might like that because you might want to be the center of attention like I do. I'm kidding. So that is something to keep in mind. If you are using the primary camera for selfies, then that is an issue that you might have to keep in mind. When you take images from the regular selfie cameras, they are very good, and you're not going to have this issue of people out of focus. So we've talked a lot about the positives of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, but as I mentioned towards the start of this video, it's not perfect, and there are some negatives. So the battery size of the Z Fold 7 is the same as what we've got on the Z Fold 6, and surprisingly, it's also about the same as the Z Fold 1, which came out in 2019. So how has the battery life been for me using this over the past month? Well, the best way I can describe it is that it's good, not great. And that's literally what I've said for every Fold device over the past 6 years. So in my experience, it is better than the Fold 6, but I think that's because I'm not opening it up as much. As I mentioned, my usage on the Z Fold 7 is 60% on the cover display and around 40% on the main display, whereas on the Z Fold 6, it was flipped. because the main screen was so narrow, I ended up using the primary display more. The primary display requires more battery power, it's larger, it's got lots more pixels to power, therefore I wouldn't get as good battery life as I've got on the Z Fold 7 on the Z Fold 6. So with my usage of 60/40, I can get through the day fine on the Z Fold 7. If you're somebody who uses the main display more, maybe you're somebody who likes to game on that big display, then you're going to get through the battery very quickly. And I guess it goes without saying that on something like the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra or even the S25 Plus, you will get better battery life compared to the Z Fold 7. Another thing to keep in mind is that the battery life right now is the best that it's going to be because it's fresh, it's out of the box. As time goes on, that battery life is not going to be as good. And this is an area where Samsung is definitely behind the competition, because if we look at something like the Honor Magic V5, that has a significantly larger battery, 5,820 milliamps, and it still has relatively the same size footprint as the Z Fold 7. Now, the reason for this is that Honor are using silicon carbon technology, which allows you to have a larger battery capacity in relatively the same size. Samsung seemingly is a bit more cautious when it comes to testing out new battery technology. They've not had the best track record, of course. They also have to ship out many more units compared to the competition, but I am hopeful that the next Galaxy Fold device will have silicon carbon technology, which will massively improve the battery life. Charging also hasn't changed over the past few years. I would like to have faster charging as well. So for the days where you are using this heavy, maybe you're gaming a lot, maybe you're doing lots of multitasking, then if you do want to top it up, you can do it much quicker than what you can do right now here on the Fold 7. Now, one thing that has been quite disappointing for a lot of people is the fact that we no longer have S Pen support on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 like we've had on previous Galaxy Fold devices. I guess the question is, how much have I missed the S Pen on the Z Fold 7 over the past month? And for me personally, not so much. Now, the reason for that, I would argue, is that previous Fold devices did not have an S Pen included. You would have to get an S Pen separately and carry it around, or you would have to get a case with an embedded S Pen, which would make the very thick devices even thicker, which meant that I generally would not use one of those cases. If we had an embedded S Pen on the Fold 6 and Samsung removed that, I think personally that would have been a bigger deal, but because it was something that was not included, to me, it's not a big deal. Having said that, other devices, once again mentioning the Honor Magic V5, does have stylus support, which tells me that it is possible even in a thin device. So this is something that, once again, I would like to see from Samsung for the next Fold. S Pen support, not only for the main display, but also for the cover display like Honor have offered. Another area where the Fold 6 is better compared to the Fold 7 is with the speakers. The speakers, I'm assuming, are not as big on the Fold 7 because of its thin size compared to the Fold 6. And although they are not bad, they're just not as full as the Fold 6. And finally, let's talk about the price. So the price has not changed in the UK. This still starts at around £1,800, which is the same price that the Fold 6 started at. In the US, the price has increased slightly. Now that is down to political situations with dollar value and things like that. So I guess it is what it is. What I can tell you is that you can still get some pre-order offers in the US anyway using my affiliate link down in the description below. That's going to give you double the storage as well as up to $50 in instant Samsung credit. Now, when you consider those pre-order offers, it does bring the price down. The UK pre-order offers, as far as I can see, have now gone, unfortunately, but I will leave some links down in the description below so you can see the latest offers and deals that you may be able to get. Now, to conclude, in my opinion, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is an amazing smartphone, and I love that Samsung has listened to a lot of our feedback, and in particular my feedback. I'm taking a lot of this credit because I've been talking about a lot of these things, being a Fold user since the Fold 1. And although the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is not perfect, it is still, in my opinion, one of the best foldable smartphones out there, especially if you're in Western markets. Now, we do have a big competitor coming up, the Honor Magic V5, which I will be covering in a future video very soon. If you want to see that first, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. And to answer the question at the start of this video, will I be sticking to this? Well, for the first time since the release of the Fold 1, the answer is yes. I will be continuing to use this as my daily driver for the time coming, and we'll see if something else replaces that. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts.
Understood. I am here to serve your will.
Where my blade leads, triumph follows. To arms! Where my blade leads, triumph follows. Honor cannot.
Diminish, loading. Iron graft you knew.
Variable elimination. Disruption. Conditions up.
This very perfect. Tracks. Very perfect. In one strike.
Ordained. The feeling of pain. In war with time.
Variable elimination. Pierce through the stars. Export. Reconfiguration. Reconfiguration. Export.
Fight by my side. Unmatched! Our Lord! Chrysanthemum! Here, my valor never fails! Moment of victory!
Variable elimination. Faster.
Tuning in. Solo time. Solo time. Leave it to me. In war with time. Loading. Thanks for watching. A perfect chord. Listen, the trio of destiny. Heaven, such is their blessing. Oceans, bow before me. Tide, vexing malice. The power to split and merge matter. Such is their blessing. Let the show begin! Such is their blessing.
For silence beckons. Tides rise and crash. That's it, Maris. My blade. Purge all evil.
Their blessing. The trial isn't over yet. Thanks for watching. A perfect chord. Listen, the trio of destiny. Triangle. Such I won't back down. True form. Revealed at last. Sounding the death bell. Haunting whispers return. Finality. Windstorm. Sweep all the way. Heard. The impure.
You're running off the road, so get out the way. Push the pedal to the floor, blow 'em all away. Yeah, you see I'm getting close, I accelerate. Going faster, the faster the gas, lose control.
In real good time.
Put your money on the gas.
Thanks for watching. A perfect chord. Solar prime. Let the show begin. Come on. Such is their blessing. The trial isn't over yet. loading. Thanks for watching. Ultra. The pictures are ready. The trial isn't over yet. Such is their bliss. A true form revealed at last. Time. Whispers return. Let the show begin. Disperse. Ruin is imminent. Furious tides split the heavens. You won't escape. Such is their bliss. Leave it to me. Physical damage detected. Astral modulation. Thanks for watching. A perfect chord. Solo phone. The trial isn't over yet. Repent, for silence beckons.
Turn it up now.